Welcome back. This is Alex Phillips here at the headquarters of the National Conversation, the home of common sense. And this is the radio station and indeed the digital platform where we can say exactly what we think. We're not afraid of the truth here at Talk. In fact, we think it's one of the most important things that holds humanity together. And on that note, I think a lot of us haven't been told the truth when it comes to certain things going on right now. And not just are we not being told the truth, we're actively being silenced, demonised and censored. And if there's one particular topic that I think encapsulates this perfectly, it is the entire debate around so-called trans rights. The fact that this became so toxic so suddenly that we allowed medical professionals to give puberty blockers to children. We even allowed some children to go ahead and mutilate their bodies with surgical interventions for what is essentially a mental health condition. And then we even believed that a mental health condition that once upon a time affected about 0.0 something percent of the population, largely males, is suddenly affecting about 30% of girls at school. And we went, oh, that's normal. It's just because we weren't talking about it. And a lot of people out there are like, where did this come from? What's going on? Because it's weird and it's frightening and we're confused and we're worried and we've not been allowed to talk about it and people are pulling the wool over our eyes. But that is not going to happen anymore. Well, not on this show. And this now, ladies and gentlemen, is a woman that I've been following for quite a number of years, and I think she is incredible. She is right at the heart of the investigation into trans activism, and without further ado, I am so proud to welcome her onto the programme today. Jennifer Bilek, investigative journalist who has been following the money behind the trans industry. Jennifer, honestly, it's such a great honour for me to have you on. The work you do is so important. I don't even know where to begin.
Alex.
I don't even know where to begin, but I'm just going to ask you a very simple question and give you as much breathing space and time as you need to answer it, which is, where has this all come from and why?
Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. Not a lot of platforms are allowing for this information to get out. And I've been researching the gender industry for over a decade, specifically the money and the power behind it, like what drives it, who drives it, and why. And so people are looking at this as, you know, a human rights movement for the marginalized. And this couldn't be further from what it actually is. This is a technocratic assault, a corporate technocratic assault on human reproduction, on the sex binary. The motive is to deconstruct the binary in effort to move sexual reproduction to the tech sector so that we will no longer eventually reproduce the species through copulation and gestation, which is why we have people promoting powerful people, corporations, banks, legal firms, educational institutions, philanthropic billionaires, promoting the idea of a sex spectrum, that suddenly the binary doesn't exist.
Let's talk about some of these people. It's, for a lot of people listening to this for the first time, it's sort of, you know, it's so wow to try and take on board. Who are some of the people who are really throwing money into this through so-called philanthropy? What connections do they have? What industrial interests do they have?
Okay, well, first of all, you have Google, Microsoft, Intel, Salesforce, Amazon, and all the other major technological institutions, corporations, leveraging their power to support the deconstruction of the sex binary, to drive this narrative into our cultures. You also have, this is also working through the LGBT political apparatus. It has basically been co-opted. And same-sex attracted people are being used to drive this narrative that sex exists on a spectrum and is not binary. So John Stryker of Arcus Foundation, which is the largest LGBT NGO in the world, is heir to Stryker Medical Corporation, which is worth $133 billion. And he uses his stock to promote this ideology. Also, Tim Gill, the founder of Quark Press, And the Gill Foundation, which is the second largest LGBT NGO in the world, is also, and their friends, they are also driving this narrative that sex is not real, that it exists on a spectrum.
So one of these people, you talk about Stryker Medical there, and, you know, one of these big foundations, the Arcus Foundation, I think you call it, for LGBTQ plus AZ, whatever it is these days, promotion, let's say, activism, connected directly to a medical company.
Exactly, which is also involved in the facial feminization market.
Right. Yeah, because that's something else.
So,
I've always wondered where the Kardashians came from and why.
Yeah.
But I mean, so
yeah,
what is the end goal in all of this? And how is it, when you list off all of these sort of tech companies who are sort of in on it, let's say, are they aware that they're in on it? Do they sort of sit in, around big white tables in shiny corporate buildings and say, I know what we need to do, this is our plan? Or is it sort of more diffuse than that? Are they sort of, do corporations sort of sign up to these things because they're sort of spineless and they think they have to without much consideration?
It's both, but all the way at the top, when you're talking about the billionaire class, they're all aware of what's going on. I mean, this is really a transhumanist paradigm, and they've been talking about it since 2000, since the early 2000s, melding us with technology, human cyborgs. They're all talking about it, and they're all promoting it as real. We are going to be, and we are being closer and closer melded with technologies.
Is there a relationship between big tech and pharma? Because I mentioned the Kardashians earlier, and they don't act, they don't sing, and they don't really have any discernible talents, but they all seem to have been made on an operating table for the male gaze. And what's happened with the Kardashianization of the world is so many more women than ever before are getting breast implants and lip fillers and Botox and bum implants and all of these things, which must be very well lining the pockets of the medical industry.
Of course. Well, this is sent down. I wouldn't call the tech industry or the medical industry the pinnacle of this whole transgender industry. I would call it the banks. The banks are invested in this, in moving us as a species out of our biological realm into a greater fusion with technology. And the tech industry works hand in hand with the medical industry. I mean, the medical industry is run by technology, as is everything else. It's not just drugs, it's machines, the medical industry. So yeah, and it's all being, run through the LGB political apparatus because they want people to think it's, a human rights for the marginalized. But, reproductive technologies have really advanced. I mean, they're researching ectogenesis, which is, growing children outside of women's bodies. And this is poised to be, $1 billion industry by 2032,
right?
Along with surrogacy, which removes the baby from the mother, right?
Yeah, I mean, these are huge advances in medical technology that frankly didn't exist a few decades ago and certainly weren't being used. And increasingly now we're seeing if two men want to have a child, then, or even if someone who has gone through transition, if you will, wants to have a child, there are all sorts of ways and means to do that. But what I don't understand is why. Yeah, why do people want to do this? How is this in the interest of the human race for a few billionaires at the top of the pile to suddenly go, oh, well, nature, that's yesterday. Let's do it this way instead?
Well, men have always been trying to conquer nature. And they have more advanced technologies that can help them do that. So they want to try. They think they're creating God with technology. One of the most pivotal individuals at the seat of this movement or this agenda is Martine Rothblatt, who's a lawyer, a tech entrepreneur. He's a transhumanist. He's a transsexual. And he has written this ideology down, that we should dismantle the sexes. as progressive. And
something I've got to say, because Jennifer, I'm regulated by an oversight, so I've got to do my sort of caveats, but bear with me while I do my small print, just to make very clear that the companies we're talking about aren't here to defend themselves, and we will have to take Jennifer's word for all of her research and indeed any individuals that have been mentioned. But if anyone from the aforementioned companies or indeed individuals does want to comment, you are more than welcome on the show. This is a place where everybody gets to join the conversation. Jennifer, talk to me about how you've gone about doing this research, because the things you're talking about, to a lot of it is a radical. To me, I don't find it radical at all. I think you're incredible. But to a lot of people, they're going to say, well, this sounds a bit mad. Really? You know, some billionaires saying they want to start growing babies outside of bodies and get rid of, you know, the sort of normal binary sex patterns. And they're all sort of discussing this together. And this is somehow managed to now be imposed on society. Of course, a lot of people who are out there with their sort of placards saying trans rights are human rights would label you as a nutcase, frankly, from my opinion, very unfairly, and that's what they do. They close down debate and try and shield us from the truth. So how have you gone about evidentially getting this information and joining the dots together?
Well, since this was part of the LGBT political apparatus, I went right there initially. And I'm also American, so if you want to know anything about anything in America, you follow the money. So that's what I did. You know, who is funding the LGB? How big are they? And why are they getting so much money? And where is the money coming from? And what other investments are these people invested in? And so I sort of stitched those things together. And I mean, I don't want anybody to take my word for any of this. I mean, I just have a new book out, Transsexual, Transgender, Transhuman, that discusses all of this. And there's, you know, I have receipts. It's not like I'm just, you know, spouting ideas off the top of my head. And they're also telling us what they're doing. I mean, these research, you know, the research for these technologies are all underway. They're driving, you know, surrogacy is becoming a booming billion-dollar industry, multiple billions of dollars. You know, between that and technological reproduction, by 2032, it will be in the hundreds of billions of dollars. So they are moving reproductive sex to the tech sector. Yeah, and so this, and they're also teaching children that they're not whole biological systems, but compartmentalized parts, commodities for the market. They're teaching them this in school, along with surrogacy and reproductive technologies. This is all being taught to children in grade schools.
Oh, yeah, in America and here and across the West, and also being foisted to them online. Jennifer, do stay with us. I've got to take a short break now, but I have some more burning questions I'd like to put to you. So please don't go anywhere. You're such an important voice, and I'm sure that people around the United Kingdom are tuning in right now, absolutely gripped by some of the things you were saying. Jennifer Bilek will be back with us just after this. Welcome back. This is Alex Phillips here with you on Talk on DAB Plus Radio, on YouTube, on your smart speaker and your connected devices, and indeed on our very snazzy Talk app. I am with you until 4 o'clock. Now, just before the break, I was talking to Jennifer Bilek, who's an investigative journalist in America, who has been following the money behind the trans industry. And I want to go back to that conversation with Jennifer. Some people have messaged me sort of saying, wow, this sounds a bit mad. I thought you were more sensible than to be talking about these sorts of things, Alex. And my reaction to this is, well, look, if we just sit here and assume that all this stuff is happening organically, if we sit here and think that, well, you know, well, all kids have always been non-binary, or think they're born in the wrong bodies, and, you know, all we're doing is just talking about it now, I think that we're sort of allowing ourselves to be rather naive. What got you into all of this? When did you begin, and what made you begin?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say, in answer to that, what's insane is the idea that men can become women or women can become men. This is a logical, rational, it's just so impossible. Right now, we're still a sexually dimorphic species right now. So that is an impossibility. It's absolute madness. And to be carving up children's, you know, healthy reproductive systems for this is mad. And it's not so much naivete that people don't believe this, it's indoctrination. This is a castration cult. We've seen them before throughout history. This one happens to be amped up on technology and vast sums of money. To think that corporations, international corporations, the largest banks in the world, the largest law firms in the world, all of our institutions are suddenly in the past 10 years on board for the deconstruction of the sex binary, which denies billions of years of evolution and hundreds of thousands of years of human evolution, is just insanity. It's cult indoctrination.
Yeah, well, this is exactly the thing that I sort of concluded, which is, if people like you and I are sitting here going, it surely can't be right. If you've got a tomboy, they're saying, well, why don't you bind your breasts and prevent your puberty by going on medications? And actually, if you want to now change your name and live your life as a boy, then we should encourage that. We've just had a big scientific report here in the United Kingdom, the Cass report, done by a very renowned paediatrician for the government, Hilary Cass. And as a result, both the last government, our current governments, have now banned, at least in the National Health Service, puberty blockers for children, rightly so. But like you said, one thing that sort of does jar with me is this idea that, with people in positions of power and authority have gone along with it without questioning it. Not just gone along with it, but actually sort of been part of the chorus saying, you're not allowed to question this. You're not allowed to raise any concerns about the things that you have seen changing. And so for me, I don't know where I stand on all of this, but either this is some sort of just corporate groupthink, because you've got highly overactive LGBTQ plus campaigners, activists in line with the ones you were talking about, pumping a load of money into the system. In the United Kingdom, we've got a once very credible charity called Stonewall, who campaigned brilliantly for gay rights, who have really gone to town when it comes to the trans rights stuff, and make companies sign up to the Stonewall Charter of, have you got unisex toilets and do you use pronouns and all the rest of it, and if you don't, you're going to be blacklisted by us and we're going to put it out there that you're evil. And so part of me thinks that,
why do we want to create human rights structures for people that want to deny their human sex reality? That doesn't make too much sense. Nor does most of the things coming out of this, the promotion of this ideology. It's absolutely cataclysmically irrational and ridiculous.
Yeah, that's how ridiculous. I find it.
The corporate world would support this because a few men have a fetish,
Well, that's the thing. That's what I don't understand. Where it's come from, why it's exploded as virulently it has, that we've even got to the stage of children having irreparable medical intervention that's now had to be made illegal by the government. Thank goodness that's happened. But this has only happened after a scientific report. Before the science came into it, everyone was just going along with this like it was the best thing since sliced bread. And particularly the puberty blockers, which have now been banned in the UK. Talk to me about those.
Well, puberty is not an unnatural condition. And you're stopping it for what? For identity purposes? No. The transgender child is a corporate construct. It had to be constructed in order to support the fetish of adult men who wish to own womanhood. It had to be constructed in order to validate this fetish of owning womanhood, because technology is poised to usurp womanhood through these new technologies. So
is essentially what I call the, sort of loosely speaking, the avatarization of people. The more we live our lives online with our filters and our Instagrams and sort of making ourselves look different, the more detached we are, that now the younger generations don't even like picking up the phone and talking to each other. They'll sit next to each other and send each other text messages. They live in these silos. And surely if we weren't doing that, then there wouldn't be as much footfall on social media and the tech companies wouldn't be earning as much money. And so I think there's definitely...
They live in a virtual reality. They
Right.
do. They live in a virtual reality. And that's what's being created here. This marketing apparatus has been raised to the level of cult indoctrination in the span of a decade. And, a cult that captures large swaths of the population's, mind and our institutions and the law, that is a virtual reality.
It's, yeah, Jennifer, I couldn't agree more. It's so fascinating having you on. Keep doing the brilliant work that you do. I'm glad somebody is out there with the courage and the tenacity to look into this. Yeah, I mean, I think these conversations are very important. Now, regardless of where you stand on this, listening to this, there are some people who are saying to me, oh, Alex, you've really done it this time, having this US nutter Jennifer Bilek on. She's crazy and you're more sensible than this, I thought. Well, hold on. Look, whatever you think about this, she does make a valid point when she talks about, let's say, some of the money, where you've got these big philanthropists giving a load of money to LGBTQI plus causes and then sitting on the boards or even running medical companies, OK? I think that is worth asking about. I think it is also worth asking about how the big corporate companies have gone along with this and why. You know, why is it that from the banks to whatever else are sort of pushing the sort of trans activism, pronouns in email signatures? I mean, do we need to talk about that? We probably should. Are they just naive? Is this sort of organically evolved because humans are a bit like that? They're lemming-like. Or is there people sitting there at the top of the ladder? I don't know, right? I don't know. But I think it's worth asking that question as well. And Jennifer was also talking about how increasingly we're medicalising fertility, let's say. We're turning this into, you know, great money-earning exercise, whether it's two men using surrogates to start families and so on and so forth, where it's being taken out of the hands of Mother Nature and put in the hands increasingly of pharmaceutical companies. Is that by design or is that just the changing nature of society? I don't know. I don't claim to be an expert on any of this, but I do think it's very important to start having a conversation. And I am glad that people like Jennifer Bilek are out there looking into this. What you've got to do is take from that interview what you like and start doing your own research, because the more that we question and scrutinise and have curiosity rather than just going along with the crowd, the better society will be, the safer society will be, and probably the less divisive society will be, rather than just going along with trends and jumping on the bandwagon of censorship. If we actually stop to think and ask questions, and not just ask questions of other people, but ask questions of ourselves, to test our own beliefs and wonder whether we've got it right as well and what may have influenced us. That is what this show is all about. This is Alex Phillips on Talk, taking a short break now, but don't go anywhere because there's so much more to come.